the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, actually first announcing this threat to the Palestinians about cutting off funding there yesterday. And Tal, what are you hearing in the UN today? And what about this U.S. strategy, which seems now it's carrots and sticks, but we've certainly seen the U.S. wave a big stick now?
Exactly, Caleb. Yesterday was a very dramatic day in terms of American foreign policy, and I think we've seen two patterns. Repeating patterns, I should say. The one is that Donald Trump, the president, is announcing foreign policy on Twitter. We've gotten used to this in the past, but now we're seeing this method of using financial sticks in order to move other countries to comply with American interests. We've seen it in regards to Pakistan. We've seen it with the Palestinians. And also last week, just to remind you, Nikki Haley also announced that the United States will be cutting the next year's budget, the 2018-2019 budget, to the United Nations, trying to increase the body's efficiency, but also make this body eventually comply with American interests and promote American interests, so-called, or maybe the Trump administration interests, I should say. So, and then we also see the carrots, like the reception that Nikki Haley will be holding tonight, hosting the countries that abstained and did not turn up to the Jerusalem vote. As she said, we will remember this vote, and here we're seeing it playing out tonight.
And Tal, one of the interesting things really about Trump's tweet that is flying somewhat under the radar is that he said we took Jerusalem off the table. That was certainly not clear in his initial announcement.
Exactly. It wasn't clear, and I think many eyebrows in Israel were, rising when people were reading the sentence, because it wasn't expected. And there Trump specifically maybe said that he was expecting Israel to make it wasn't written, but it was the subtext of this tweet, making certain concessions to the Palestinians for this Jerusalem recognition. It was the first time that Trump actually announced it. We only speculated that this might be interpreted in the future this way in the peace plan that the Trump administration will put forward at some point in time. But as Trump said, right now the Palestinians are not even willing to see the U.S. as a legitimate broker in these talks between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. So right now, everything seems to be off the table, Nurit.